consent agenda. Marjorie, seconded by Sammy. All those in favor? Any opposed? Okay, and abstained, so 401. Communications?
I have those. If you guys don't care, I'll just read those when we stop again.
Okay.
And close. Yep. My apologies. They're thank you cards.
Okay. No student recognition this month. We're on to your report, Dr. Lewis.
Okay, sorry. So just a quick overview. I know we did the budget workshop, but there was a few other things I wanted to add. You all have in your packet the budget message that outlines a great deal of what we're talking about. And I also provided the printouts from Balance HQ that goes through all the state statutory requirements of things that you all need to see. I also have those in PowerPoint. I will not read them to you here, but I will show you a few things. As you well know, the state adequacy target this year was 6760. And then this also goes into the things that we're doing with the budget. 7% of our weighted average daily attendance will go from the general operating fund to Fund 4 to fund some capital projects. That's about a little over, it's about 547,000. I will say that in the future, we may consider backing up it being a 7% transfer, which is the maximum, and we may look at doing a 4% or 3% transfer, especially as we get into a situation where we're going to have to get to the 40,000 without the grant. All the employees within the budget will get their steps. The current base salary is $32,000. The Senate Bill 727 that was passed 2 years ago that mandated the $40,000 minimum, we will still utilize the grant. However, part of the Senate Bill 727 also includes teachers with a master's degree and 10 years of experience go to $46,000 this year. So with some of the recommendations I've made on the salary schedule, that will get us to $46,000 and I believe $46,200 approximately. We will increase the base to $35,750. And as I explained in the budget workshop, the reason that we're going to do that is because we can't transfer enough out of Fund 1 and move it into Fund 4, and our fund balances start to dramatically increase to over 50%. So to keep our fund balances to a relatively acceptable level for a school district our size, we're going to add to the base, and that also gets us a little bit closer to that $40,000 mark that we're going to have to hit in a couple of years. The insurance has not increased over the previous year. In fact, the year before we had a little bit of a decrease, so that's actually helped us. Same with life insurance. This next slide, and I won't read this to you, but one of the things, as we talked about it being 6760, is that although the Senate and the House approved an increase to 7150 or 7140 for the state adequacy target, we didn't even hit the 6760 every month this year. This last month, it was only 6750 because revenues within the state have gone down. So it's a good thing that we have only budgeted for the 6760, because even if the governor signs to increase the state adequacy target, we're not going to hit that number. It's just not going to be possible. And in fact, just in talking with MSBA today, the rumor is that he's going to cut $300 million from the budget. He's supposed to sign it this coming week. And ironically, the $300 million is the exact number that it would take to increase the state adequacy target to that 7140. So I just don't see that occurring. So we're not going to budget for that increase. It'll be nice if we get it. I've included this, and I'll kind of click to it just so you all can see it in a little bit better idea of what our budget looks like, or what I particularly look at. This will show you our revenues and expenditures over the last few years. And this is why we're able to give those increases. If you'll notice, in 2023, it shows we only put back $130,000. That's a little bit misleading because we actually put more than that back, but Dr. Reed went back 5 years and was able to do some 7% WADA transfers and adjust the ASBRs so that you can pull more money into Fund 4. But if you look at 2024 and 2025, we've put a significant amount back into our, and I'll show you specifically what it looks like for our operating levy and not just Fund 4. So you'll see there that the amount that we're putting back into Fund 1 is a significant amount. And so moving forward, you'll see that for this year, we're only anticipating putting $91,000 back into general operating levy. And that is a direct result of the increases in salaries. So that is impacted not just by the certified, but we'll talk a little bit about the non-certified having to get to the $15 an hour and how that impacts the budget. But this budget, again, as you all know, and we've talked about, Linda Quinley has been a great resource at MSBA, and she felt, and she's right, and I agree with her, is that our fund balances were getting too high to not increase some of the salaries to get us closer to what the inevitability is of that $40,000 paid on our own without the grant. That's probably going to happen within the next year or two, three at the most. So it's what's considered almost a break-even budget, and so it flows a little bit better. You'll notice that our fund balances in the general fund is about 30 and a little over 30.5%, which is extremely a good solid number for the size of our district. Last year we were just a little under 39%, so we are dipping. We're not really dipping. A lot of what we're getting into that's dropped us is Fund 4. So we've used some of that money, but overall, this tells a pretty telling picture about where our funds are coming from and where they're going. And you can kind of see that there in the pie distribution chart. And we'll look at this. Jason had stopped by earlier this week, and we had discussed some budget things. And this particular program, probably after July, moving forward, I will be able to generate a report for you that shows exactly where we're at month to date, year to date on the budget, and what we've realized out of that budget in a percentage. So that'll be really nice. And so this is another thing. This is some historical data about certified salaries, how much we've spent, non-certified, and things. But I'll go back to the slides because I don't want to inundate you with a bunch of that stuff. Let me see. These are our projected. Whoops. There we go. Projected fund balances at the end of this month. So this is our most up-to-date numbers. You'll see zero in that special fund, teachers fund. You have to zero that out by law. That money goes straight to teacher salaries. So you can carry a balance each month up until the end of the year, and you have to zero that out. Fund 3 is our debt service. Again, that's the money from the high school that's left on the high school and the 10 gym, the DNR loan that we have for the lighting and the energy product. And then Fund 4 is our capital projects fund, which is what we're using to cash flow the FEMA building. This is, whoops, every time I do that. This is our anticipated revenues, where they're coming out of. Local, how much we think we're gonna get. Property taxes, you're looking at $2.5 million. This is a reassessment year, and I believe that I budgeted, my projections were about 1.2 to 1.5%, which is lower than most of the state, but that's historically pretty accurate, between 1 and 3%. So again, just being conservative in what we're trying to do. Anticipated revenues from the state, you'll see the basic formula. That's that SAT number that I was talking about, that 6760. We also move our transportation and to Fund 4. That's also another transfer we do. Career ladder, significant. That was $215,000. We also fund obviously 40% of that, so $215,000 from the state. And then the baseline salary grant, we're gonna take about a little over $90,000 for that to cover some of that. And I'll show you the salary schedules. Federal, a lot of this, and Marjorie and I talked about this a little bit, but this is a lot of title money. You can see that's the majority of where that comes from is for our free and reduced students, and there's a lot of strings attached to title money, and and that school breakfast, if you all remember, we transferred some money into a restricted balance, and that's where we used for the dishwashers we purchased for the school. And then some of that money we also used to pay back OPA, the school lunch. So overall, here's your anticipated revenues from the county, $135,000. Whoops. Am I right on this? Yeah. Okay. Tuition, that's 260 students is how many we had in the spring. So that's the number that I used, that 9775. So it should be a little over 2.5 million for tuition. We did receive all of our tuition checks for the spring, so we're in good shape there. Mary actually picked the last one up, I think, today. Isn't that correct? Was it yesterday? Yesterday. So our total anticipated revenue, is a little over $17 million. This thing's really touchy, so I'm trying to. Anticipated expenditures there, you'll see total expenditures at 17.7. A lot of our money, you can see, goes into instruction and support, salaries, benefits. I mean, the whole kit and caboodle there for what we're going to spend. And that's the total expenditures for fiscal year 26. Here is my estimated ending fund balances for the year. Still pretty healthy. That unrestricted fund balance is 30.56%, which again, for the size of our school district, is very healthy. If we can hit that 27 to 30% range every year, I can say without a doubt that we are in good shape. The state would be very happy with that. So this is one that you'll want to know. This is the change in the teacher salary schedule. You see what our average teacher salaries was last year and what we're going to do this year. It's a significant increase. It's also a significant increase in the budget. You can see that it's almost $600,000 with benefits, because it's not just, when I say benefits, that's obviously not just health insurance. That's the district's obligation also to retirement, which is 14.5%. So that's why if you see an increase in benefits, it's not from our health insurance, it's from our retirements. So moving to support staff, this graph is pretty telling. I used it in the budget workshop. This shows you the top one, 24-25, shows you where we were and what the cost was. So as you can, and it shows full-time employees, that's the FTE number. Most of our starting salaries were in the $12 range. Now I will say, $12 is less than, obviously, than the state minimum wage, but and I've got another slide in here, we'll talk about how the district has really put forth an effort to increase those over the last few years from where they were. So and we'll get into those percentages, but ultimately at the bottom, you'll see that it's about a $416,000 increase to increase support staff salaries for all these folks. One thing and we talked about this again, is that the change in the structure of the salary schedule for our support staff, it was in dollars and cents. And so the new support staff salary schedule is by percentages. And that is on purpose to do one of two things. One, it's to get them bigger increases earlier in their careers. And so once they've gotten those over the first 5 to 7 years, then we start to see smaller increases. However, because they had the bigger increases, that flows through in a percentage, so it kind of catches them up and hopefully keeps them in the district for a number of years. We also consolidated some. You'll notice this isn't as many as we've had in the past, so you don't see a crossing guard on there. You don't see some other non-used salary schedules, so we eliminated some of those. The blue highlighted ones, you'll see para, 60 hours with para, building secretary and custodians. So those were the ones, and the custodians were on there because there's so many of them that are non-support. But we, instead of just doing it again where everybody's at 15, we really tried to emphasize and put our money in hard to staff areas and be able to keep people, because I feel like over the last few years, we've lost out on people, not just people leaving because the pay wasn't good, but we've lost out on hiring quality individuals because the pay wasn't good. So we really emphasized our para staff, our building secretaries, and then our custodians, obviously, because we've got so many of them there. So those increases were a little bit larger as a percentage. So going back to the certified salary, I know this looks very complicated. It's really not. It's just trying to paint a picture of here's what our new base would be. Then the second column is how much the state is going to contribute in grant money to get to the third column, which is actually what the teachers will make each year. You'll see there's still some compression, but because we've raised the base, it's not as bad. So you see that in the first 6 years, they're all making the same, which is $40,000. And then you see from years 7 to 13, they're all making $43,000. So there is still some compression, and I will revisit this in October to where I hope to slowly get us out of the compression issue. So as you increase the salaries, you can get out of that compression from being so many from 40 or 43,000. I'm sure most of you understand that in years past, salary schedule typically every year is a different amount of money. So it's very different looking now because of the grant and the state statute saying you have to be at these minimums. You'll also notice in that MA, I would just look at the MA column, not anywhere it says MA 16 because that's actually the number of hours they have. But if you look at the MA column and you go down to line 11, because you have to have 10 years of experience, so you're actually going on step 11. We're at 46,200, so that does get us out of the 46,000 grant. We also, worth mentioning, as I said in the budget workshop, we also condensed some columns. So there's not a BA, BA plus 8, BA 16, BA 24, BA 32. It's now BA, BA plus 16 hours, MA, MA plus 16 hours, MA plus 32, and specialist. So again, we're moving some people over, but in the long term, eliminating those columns saves us money. So it's a little bit of an investment early on, which I believe was about, I think it cost us $20,000 to do that now, but that becomes less and less each year as we move forward. The next slide you'll see, if you notice on this particular slide, it starts at step 6, and on this slide, step 7, you'll see numbers that look like the grant. What that is the local grant. Last year we had everyone making so much got $3,000 from step 7, I believe, all the way down to step 28. And from step 28, they went to 28, 29, 30 were $5,000. Well, we've rolled that money into the salary schedule because, again, that saves us money. That money was there to offset compression, and this is the spots where it's left. So again, when I go back in this in October, I'm going to be looking about how can we eliminate this local grant money and roll it back into our salaries so that we're not in this kind of compressions trouble. You'll see at the bottom there's a little bit there too. We have some people that are in those spots, so we couldn't. The goal here was to make sure that they weren't making less this coming year than what they were anticipated to. So as those folks retire, we will roll that off. We will roll those local grants off. Here is, and this one's really good. I won't read this to you, but here's a lot of the progress that the district's made over the last few years, and things that we've done to try and make sure that our teachers are compensated, that we don't have them leaving for other districts, and really trying to keep them in, not just leaving for other districts, but just to keep them in the career. So many would just leave because the money wasn't good. They wouldn't necessarily go to another district, but just get out altogether because they could make more money doing something else. But this is a pretty telling story. You know, we initially, when the grant started, it was $38,000, and now it's a $40,000 minimum. So anyway, it tells kind of what you all have done over the last years, especially on that support staff, how much has been increased there. This is some comparison data that I just thought you all would want to see that kind of relates to the budget in regards to Dent County. I'm going to probably share some of this with the Dent County superintendents because I think they would like to see this. This is our attendance rates. As you all know, that's been a pretty big focus for us. But 78.9%, that is not this past year, that is the year before. This year, we're probably looking at really close to 90%. And so if not just below it, so you can see that we made a big emphasis. That was a big point. We actually met as an administrative team with Ange Barton with the juvenile office this past week, and that was really good. So we're really trying to make sure we shore up our policies and procedures there. You'll see on this one, this is also another telling one. You may wonder why we had such a huge, in 2021, that 100%, that's for all intents and purposes, a COVID number, because they counted every student so that every student got free meals during that time. But that jump from 50% to 87% really has a lot to do with the high school mandating that people fill out those free and reduced letters, because we need an accurate description, and that directly ties into our federal funding. It directly ties into any kind of grants we get, because if your threshold is a certain percentage, they say, wow, you are eligible for this grant because your free and reduced lunch percentage is over a certain number. And so that's why that number is so high. I anticipate next year you'll see a little bit lower number just because we had less people fill it out this past year. Some of these, I'm really proud of this one because I think that this shows how efficient we are. That we, 14 is a pretty good number, student-teacher ratio. You could go all the way quite a bit higher, honestly, if you look at some of that. I don't think you could change grade levels per se, but if you took away some of the title staff, but that money's free money. So you could go to a higher number, or it would show a student-teacher ratio to a higher number, but the federal money, it wouldn't really be saving us anything, if that makes sense. So 14-to-1 student-teacher ratio is pretty solid. Another one you'll see, student-administrator ratio. So we're not overstaffed at the top at all. As you can see, that's 215 for every administrator. Is a pretty good amount to be able to manage. So that's a testament to that staff for sure. This just is now you'll notice I've switched it because I can change peer groups in the program, but this one's not Dent County, but this is schools that are local, regardless of size, just people that come by. But this is actually the amount. I really don't, the way they've explained this to me is that percentage is the amount of your budget that you use for the county. I don't know how Sullivan is it. To me, that reads like 200%, but I couldn't really gauge that. But this shows a percentage, and maybe I don't think it's 0.71, but it shouldn't be 70%. So maybe it is 0.7, and then that's 2% share of revenue. But that's how much of our budget comes from the county. Here it is with Dent County. Local revenue share, so that one, again, that one's going to be more about your assessed valuation and where that money, how much of that is a percentage of your budget. So you can see some of our folks rely on a heavier amount of assessed valuation than we do. Actually, all of them. Another one that you all should be very proud of is that we put our money back into our people. This shows that about last year in 2024, almost 74% of our budget is going to salary and benefits. So when we discuss, what that looks like moving forward as teachers and support staff, they look at, hey, where's our money going? It's tied directly back into our people. So here's some things that we have that are challenges, and many of you all know this. So our operating levy is at the state minimum of $2.75. There is no district, with the exception of Camdenton and maybe School of the Osage, because they get so much money coming in from tourists that are below $2.75. There's probably, I'm pretty sure there's less than 50 districts in the entire state that have an operating levy at the state minimum of $2.75. I put attendance because I think that it's better, and I'm really proud of the principals and the teachers and all the work that went into that this year. But that's going to, as we fight to get out of COVID, because it's not an excuse. I've never thought it was an excuse, and we're going to get kids back into class because it's the right thing to do, to be there, not for money, but to learn. This last year, they actually check your attendance at different times. They check it in September and they check it in January. Well, on our January day count was when we had all that sickness. So of all the times, even though we're almost at 90%, that particular day was in the 70s. So it will affect our funding moving forward from that particular time. So that was something interesting to me. The foundation formula update is, as you all know, the governor has convened a task force to look at the foundation formula. As I said, I anticipate that you will see money following the student. So as open enrollment continues to be a topic of conversation, it'll be very interesting to see how they have that funding when you're paying taxes in a certain area, but the student's going to another school district. What's that going to look like? So that's going to be an interesting piece. And I'll be honest, and I've said this many a time, them changing the foundation formula is not to give us more money. That's just not the intent of it. Expenditures, again, we are almost at a break-even budget. So what we've got coming in is going out. We're trying to make sure that we can offer a competitive salary, because again, as we come out of the grant, that's going to, as of right now, the playing field is almost level, but that's not going to be the case, and we don't want to be stuck behind. And so the hope is that we're planning for the future and making sure that we're where we need to be. Obviously, maintaining aging facilities, as you all know, we've kind of talked about that several times, about plans and things that we need to work on, and we're actively doing that. We've got bids coming out on the track. We've got the parking lot. I've talked to two gentlemen in the last couple of days. I'm really excited about those. Probably more excited than I ever thought I'd be about parking lots.
I'm pretty excited about the parking lots. I don't know.
It did. I came back. We had one guy, and I was like, "Dan, we're going to get a speed bump here. This is really going to help." It's like, yeah, sounds good.
Will it be yellow? Striped yellow
So,
or yellow?
it's yeah, and this is, again, just for your information. Here's our outstanding debt. The first one, the GO bonds, the general obligation bonds, that shows your payment schedule and how much is still owed on the high school. That should come out in 2030. That should end in about a little less than 10 years, I guess, 9 years. The high school will be paid off, and so we'll have somebody. I don't know if I won't be retired, but that'll be a conversation for the future. The second one, signature public funding. That is the TNGM. That shows the principal and interest left on that. I believe that is a 3.6, something like that, 3.6, I believe, interest rate on that. The Missouri DNR, that is the lighting project, again, that was done a few years ago. So that's overall how much debt. No, I believe we're in good shape again. We don't have an extreme amount of outstanding debt. The biggest problem we have in regards to our debt is that our borrowing capacity is not very large. And then the highlighted ones are things that are currently happening or have happened in the last year. These are our capital projects. You can see we've put a pretty good sized dent in some of that. And I won't lie and say that, man, we just knocked it out of the park. Again, the hailstorm hurting our roofs gave us some room to do a significant amount of this work.
Put a dent in.
Yeah, put a dent in. Yeah. So that we were very fortunate, because if doing this on our own, the roofs, we would not be able to do some of these other things that need to get done. So it actually moved up our timeline to be able to get some of the projects that we need done. I fully anticipate within the next 2 or 3 years that, with the exception of William Lynch, we should be able to have some very good sustaining facilities and transportation that puts us in a good spot, truly. We do have some sports things that need to get done, and that's probably some bigger projects, but I did put those on there as things that we need to continue to look at. And so, you know, the high school gym bleachers and it seems like the end caps on those things, and there's one particular step at the bottom of the fixed side of bleachers that is a hazard that we fixed over and over and over, and we just really need to do something about that. And so, let's see, that's about it. This one I thought was pretty important too, and I will share some of these things with the staff, but the things that we've done with the budget and that you all have set as priorities directly tie back to the CSIP, into what we wanted to do and addresses goals moving forward for the district. So, you know, I'm really proud of all the work that has gone into this from our teachers and you all and the principals. And so I just think going into this, which was back in, I mean, really hitting this hard probably in December or January, this I'm very happy, if that makes sense. I thought it was going to be more of a struggle, but some things fell into place that really have helped us. And so that's pretty much my budget presentation. That's the last slide I've got. As I said, I've also got the budget message there in your packet. It's another 10 pages or so, and some of this is already in there. But does anyone have any questions about any of this?
It's a lot of good work.
Yeah, we're in, I mean, long story long, we're in pretty good shape right now. So
I think it's amazing. I thought we were going to have to meet these salaries. How on earth could we do that? But it's been amazing to see that put together.
we were very fortunate in many ways with ESSER money to be able to put some money back, and then and not having to raise salaries for a number of years, plus insurance not going up has helped us over the last couple of years. We had a 20 or 22% increase about 3 years ago, I believe, but the last 2 has allowed us to kind of catch up. So yeah, that's, and I won't lie, you know, going through this with a fine-tooth comb, line by line, through the entire thing, I just kept looking for something glaring. And like, I've got to be wrong about this. There's something that is just not right. But and it's not just my eyes. I mean, there's been a number of people that have looked over this. And so as I went through it, and as Linda went through it, I had Mary and Tracy go through it, and I said, is this, and they all came back with the same opinions and conclusions that yes, our fund balances are in good shape. That's not it. You didn't miss a zero, or you didn't add a zero, or put a negative or something like that. So, we're in good shape right now. We'll see what it looks like moving forward. I anticipate budget cuts from the state, and that will impact some things, but staffing, we're not overstaffed. You know, I think we're in a pretty good place. Anyway, that's good. So, sorry.
All right. No, thank you. Okay. Dr. Blau, you want to start us off?
You bet. It's a long meeting. You have my report. Do you have any questions?
Happy to see you.
Perfect.
Thank you. Mr. Byatt.
I don't have a ton to report on. I do want to say that, you know, we've got a lot of, you know, facility updates there at the upper. It's looking a lot different. Everything's looking really well. So the office counter has been ripped out. We're making new office space for the secretary we're getting next year. So they'll both have their own space inside the main office, and it's looking a lot different, but looking good. So.
Thank you. Dr. Green's not here. Her report's in there. Does Mrs. Haven want to give hers?
We can find out if she has anything she'd like to say.
Yeah, I don't have a lot. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead, Mrs. Haven. Anything you want to share or don't have to, it's all
No,
you.
we're just getting ready for the next school year. I did want to say that Amber Pryor's worked really hard trying to get some industry recognized credentials and IRCs in the business department. So that's been a goal of ours, and she's doing a few at a time, see how it works, and then hopefully add a few more. So that's pretty exciting. That's about it.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
The rest of the reports are in your packet. Okay, new business. There's a lot of it.
Yes, and we can
There's a
go
lot of,
fast.
Well, I'll let, yeah, you just.
This one too. This is all available. These are our transfers. These are yearly transfers. A lot of it's the things we just talked about.
Okay, so we need to approve the transfers from funds 1, 2, and 4.
Yeah, that zeroes out the teachers fund and all that.
Yeah. Motion by Jason, seconded by Steven. All those in favor? Any opposed? 5-0. Okay, we need to approve the participation in the state salary grants. Motion by Sammy, second by Marjorie. All those in favor? Any opposed? Okay, 5-0. The policy updates, no vote. That's the first read only for the MSBA policy updates. They're in your drive.
I just want to add a real
Yep.
quick. We're going to have a ton of policy updates coming out. We're waiting on the governor's signature. So to give you an example, the cell phone ban, we're waiting on that policy. They just haven't sent it out. They're just waiting for him to sign it, and we'll have some things coming.
So some fun for July. Okay.
Yep.
Okay, upper elementary policy updates. Those are in the packet. Do you want to say anything about those, or no?
Yeah.
Okay, all right, just read them all.
It's just first read.
Okay. Okay, we need to approve amending the budget to reflect actual expenditures. This is a twice-a-year thing, so motion to do that. Stephen? Okay, Marjorie? All those in favor? Any opposed? Okay, 5-0. The 2025-2026 PD plan, that's in the drive as well. We need a motion to approve that. Marjorie? Jason? All those in favor? Any opposed? Okay, 5-0. Okay, we need to approve the SLPA contract with Alcorn Therapy. Is this the one you need to abstain from?
I abstain from that, that's my daughter-in-law.
Okay, all right. I need a motion to approve that. Stephen, seconded by Sammy. All those in favor? Any opposed? Okay, and one abstention, 401. Okay, we need to approve the contract with Communication Development, which is also in the drive. Stephen, second, Sammy. Okay, all those in favor? Any opposed? 5-0. Okay, we need to motion to surplus 75 desks. Jason, Marjorie, all those in favor? Any opposed? Okay, 5-0. And then we have 40 wooden chairs to surplus. Need a motion for that. Sammy, Jason, all those in favor? Any opposed? Okay. We need to declare bus number 2 as surplus. Jason, Stephen, all those in favor? Any opposed? Okay, 5-0. Okay, we need to, some banking stuff. Approve Dr. Wills and Tracy Wolf as authorized for the lockbox. Bank of Salem, Marjorie, Sammy, all those in favor? Any opposed? Okay. We need a motion to approve Jason as a signatory on the account and remove Philip, you're the new treasurer. Yeah. Need a motion. Stephen, second. Marjorie, all those in favor? Okay. Any opposed? Okay. 401 with Jason abstaining. Okay. The construction trades is really early. I was like, it's gonna get that.
It just started
in
over
there.
on the, it's an A.
Yeah.
I don't know how that happened. But
I did laugh out loud when I saw that. Okay. And then permission for the out-of-state trip for construction trades. Need a motion, Stephen. Second, Marjorie. All those in favor? Any opposed? Okay, 5-0. Okay, we need to approve the RTI consortium agreement. A motion for that. Sammy, Jason, all those in favor?
You're doing
Any
great.
opposed? I'm like, as I'm sitting here. Okay, any opposed? Sorry. Okay, 5-0. Okay, the Cahill's change order, that was in your packet as well.
Yes.
just to add hand dryers.
Yeah, there was a discrepancy between, there was no hand dryers actually put in the scope, so we had to, it was like, basically it was missed. And then the heaters were too tall that were put in, that were recommended by the architect, so we had to change those.
They can't just use their pants.
Right.
So Jason's gonna, he's not gonna, Justin moves not to. Sammy, second. All those in favor? Any opposed? Okay, 5-0. Memorandum of understanding for Compass Health. This is an annual thing. Need a motion.
Yep.
Sammy, Stephen, all those in favor? Okay, any opposed? Okay, 5-0. Annual developmental preschool lease. Motion for that. Jason, second. Sammy, all those in favor? Any opposed? 5-0. Okay, the audit bid.
We had two bids come back. Our current auditor, Wood, Schultz, and Rapp was the lower bidder, and so I recommend we go with them.
We've been happy with it. Okay, the motion. Stephen, second. Sammy. Okay, all those in favor? Any opposed? Okay. Upper elementary roof bid.
In the drive, there's a file that shows the four bids that came back. One was within the full scope of the bid packet, which was GRP Wegman. So that is my recommendation to go with that.
Question,
Yes, sir.
Will insurance cover
Yes,
that?
it is the amount that they have projected it to cost is within the amount that insurance has recommended or given us.
Okay, motion by Jason, second. Sammy, all those in favor? Any opposed? Okay, 5-0. And finally,
Yeah.
the 2025-2026 budget. All this work comes down to one
30
and that's
second salaries
vote
and everything. Yeah.
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 Okay.
That's
Part of it.
Yep.
Good
Okay.
job. Very good job.
thank you.
Motion to approve. Sammy, second. Marjorie, beat you, Jason, sorry. Okay, all those in favor? Any opposed? Okay, 5-0.
Very good work.
Okay.
Yeah. At the bottom, those are just, those don't require any kind of approval, but just so you know, I mean, we will hire an upper elementary teacher in closed session, but we did have a transfer. Melissa Plank's going from 1st to 4th, which again, that'll be all in upper. And then you've got Tanya Sanders as middle school secretary, Teresa Wilkin as upper elementary. We had Shelley Kerr resigned as middle school secretary, Elizabeth Brown, William Lynch Para, and Lynn Mast as middle school para.
Okay, nothing else. I need a motion to adjourn and move into executive session. Sammy, Stephen. Okay, all those in favor? Any opposed? Okay, good job, guys.
Good job, Kurt.
You're gonna need a lunch break. It's like a marathon.